Today, we're going to piece together a blueprint for the future, and it comes straight from the mind of Elon Musk. We're going to connect the dots between a social media platform, the end of all jobs, and, well, the very nature of reality itself. Yeah, it's a wild ride, so let's just get right into it. Let's start right here with this bombshell. In less than 20 years, working will be optional. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's not some far-off sci-fi dream. That's what Elon Musk sees as a logical, predictable endpoint. And look, this isn't just some random prediction. It's the end result of a very specific chain of ideas. So we're going to follow that chain step by step and see exactly how he gets there. So where does this whole journey begin? Well, you might be surprised. The first piece of this puzzle isn't a rocket or a super advanced AI. It's a communication platform. See, to really understand Musk's endgame, you have to first understand his mission with X. It all starts with this idea of a global town square. Okay, so here's Musk's diagnosis of the problem. He looked at the old Twitter and saw a platform that was, in his view, amplifying a very specific far-left ideology that was born out of its San Francisco headquarters. And at the same time, it was de-amplifying or suppressing other voices. The goal for X, then, was to create a balanced, centrist platform, a true global town square that simply adheres to the laws of whatever country it's operating in without putting a, quote, thumb on the scale.
Right, so that's the what. But that brings up a much bigger question, doesn't it? Why? Why even bother building this in the first place? What's the ultimate point of a global town square? The answer to this is the key that basically unlocks his entire worldview.
And here it is. The goal was never just about making a better social media app. It's about creating a collective consciousness for humanity. Think about that. A single place where all of our thoughts, across every language, can come together and merge, so that we, as a species, can get a little bit better at understanding the universe itself.
He actually explains it with a pretty cool analogy. A single cell is barely conscious, right? But trillions of them, all cooperating, they create a human being. It's the same idea with us. One person could never, ever build a spaceship, but a collection of humans, a collective consciousness, absolutely can. The better our information flows, the more amazing things we can achieve together.
Okay, so we have the philosophical goal. Expand human consciousness. Now let's switch gears and look at the physical tools he believes will get us there. And these are the things that are going to accelerate change way, way beyond what any social media platform could do on its own. AI and robotics.
And this brings us right back to that shocking prediction from the very beginning. Musk lays out this timeline that is, well, it's incredibly fast. He thinks that in just 10 to 15 years, AI and robotics will be so advanced they can provide pretty much any good or service you could possibly imagine. And that leads directly to his conclusion: in less than 20 years, work just isn't a necessity anymore. It becomes a hobby.
Let that just sit there for a second. Less than 20 years. He's so confident about this, he actually challenged people to play back the recording in the future just to check his work. In his mind, this isn't some wild speculation. It's where the math leads. It's where the exponential curve of technology is taking us, whether we're ready for it or not.
This, of course, raises a gigantic question. I mean, if AI and robots can create this world of near infinite abundance and human labor becomes totally obsolete, what on earth happens to money? What's its purpose anymore? Well, this leads to a logical progression he calls the economic singularity. Step 1, AI and robotics create hyperabundance. Step 2, this makes human labor optional. And step 3, if labor is optional, then money, which is really just a system for allocating that labor, becomes completely irrelevant. So what replaces it? Well, a new, more fundamental currency: energy, the raw ability to actually do useful work. This quote really is the core of the whole argument. Think about it. If you were stranded on a desert island with $1 trillion, that money is totally useless, right? Because there's no one's labor to command. Well, in a future where robots do all the work, the entire global population is, economically speaking, on that same desert island. Money just loses its meaning. So we've gone from social media to the end of work to the irrelevance of money. Now we're going to take the final leap. And this is where we get into the most profound, most abstract part of his worldview, the very nature of reality itself. Because really, if AI can grant our every wish, if survival is no longer a concern,
then what's the point of it all? And for Musk, this is exactly why we need that collective consciousness in the first place. The goal isn't just to get more stuff, it's to become smart enough, as a species, to figure out what questions we should even be asking. Which brings him to his famous, or infamous, belief that we are probably living in a simulation. The logic is actually a pretty simple extrapolation. Just look at video games. In about 50 years, we went from Pong to photorealistic virtual worlds. If that trend continues, we'll eventually be creating millions, maybe billions of simulations that are completely indistinguishable from reality. So he asks, given that, what are the odds that we just happen to be in the one, original, base reality? Pretty small, right?
But then he adds this fascinating, almost Darwinian twist to the whole idea. Think about how we use simulations today. We run them and we discard the boring, predictable outcomes. We study the interesting ones, the weird edge cases that actually teach us something new.
And that leads to this absolutely mind-bending conclusion. If our reality is a simulation, and only the interesting simulations are allowed to keep running, then it follows that the most interesting outcome is the most likely. So from a global town square to a future without work, it all serves one cosmic purpose: to make our reality more complex, more conscious, and ultimately more interesting. So, if Musk is right, does that mean the universe is actively pushing us to be less boring?